Every journey is a story. Sometimes the story is uneventful, at others, unpredictable, even dangerous. We started our day with cerulean skies, a stark contradiction to the car accident that befell us in the very first hour. The next 40 hours made a mockery of our well-laid plans and ended on a bizarre note that was only fitting.
Alright guys, now you may not recognise it, but this is the same square I came to my first night in Dushanbe, where we had that impromptu television interview. Now, you don't recognise it, I suppose, because the fountains are off, the crowds are gone, and it's daylight. Now, the daylight means for me that this is the beginning of our Tajikistan adventures. Just to set the scene right now, we're in Dushanbe, which is in the west part of the country, and we're going to be going east. This is the remote heartland of Tajikistan. It's called the Pamirs, and the landscapes there, the way of life of the people, absolutely different from anything you would see in Dushanbe, certainly different from anything that I've seen to date. But we're going to be making this journey in phases. Our final destination, which is right on the border with Kyrgyzstan, is going to be at an altitude of almost 4,000 meters. Now that's absolutely crazy when you think of high altitude adventures. So my first concern is that I'm going to be up to it. I really do hope that I am, especially just after coming out of a bout of COVID, which was not more than 4 weeks ago. Now from Horog, which brings us right onto the border with Afghanistan, could be, I don't know, to be very honest, I don't know what the security situation is going to be, but from Horog, tomorrow, we'll continue our destination, and then if you look at a map, we're going to very slowly, day by day, retrace those steps, go into the villages, find out how the people in those villages are living. These people, for the most part, are ethnic Kyrgyz. Culturally, linguistically, have very little in common with Tajikistan, so it's almost, if you think about it, it's almost a foreign adventure.
A foreign adventure that will begin, unfortunately, with a car accident just outside the city. Our driver attempted a left turn across speeding traffic, which remained speeding traffic till the moment of impact. Strapped into the passenger side, I took the hit full on. By some stroke of luck, and even though we'd taken a direct hit, our car was hardly damaged, and we ourselves were, for the most part, unharmed. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for the other vehicle. Their car was badly damaged, and there were quite a few arguments in trying to determine who was at fault. This did, quite obviously, dampen the mood. There is no footage of the crash, and we wouldn't have brought it to you anyway, but for the next few hours, the mood did turn rather sombre, while we sought distractions to cheer us up. We've made less progress than I would have liked, and that's because we've broken down 3 times and unfortunately also been in an accident head on, and my side was slammed into. Thankfully I'm alright. Alright guys, believe it or not, we are right on the Afghan border, but not on purpose. You see, the vagaries of road travel in Tajikistan mean that you're always at the mercy of not just nature, but also the government's efficiency in clearing up some of those consequences. So where we are right now, we've just come east of Kholob on the way to Horog, and we encountered a lot of rocks fallen just ahead. So they're holding all the cars back, as you can see right there, but they've told us it's only going to be 30 minutes, but I'm quickly learning in Tajikistan that 30 minutes really, literally could mean anything. We're right on the border, so if you look at those mountains just right there, on the other side of them, so literally you climb up the mountain and boom, you're looking down into Afghanistan, and that's exactly where we are. How do I deal with stress, other than off-key renditions of mirrors? I decompress, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Impressively, the road crew were as good as their word. And in just over half an hour, they had us moving again. Operation Tajikistan was back in business, and I gazed longingly, wonderingly, at the lands on the other side of the river. Afghanistan. And the hovels, the people, the ordinariness of it all, in spite of recent events.
It's just gone past 8:30 and we're still quite away from Horog. So I can give you guys one piece of advice. If you're ever going to do this trip, do budget enough time. It's not pleasant to be caught up here at night. We're here at the guest house in Horog. It's about 5 a.m. on the 2nd of September. And we've only just arrived, so it's a clear indication that we fell well behind schedule. It was a bit of a tough journey to get here, but the good news is that we did make it. I suppose important to say at this stage is road travel in Tajikistan, you simply cannot underestimate it, just in terms of how long these journeys take, getting your car into tip-top shape, and just making sure you've got a great driver that can navigate the roads. And just to make a quick comment on where we are in Horog. Now this is the de facto capital of the Pamirs, the capital of the Gorno-Badakhshan autonomous oblast in Tajikistan, and it's where you're going to start to see lots of other ethnicities apart from the Tajik supermajority in the western half of the country. So for now, I am going to go to bed. Big thanks to Beruz, who's holding the camera and who found us this place. And hopefully the day ahead is a lot better than the one we just endured. So guys, good morning. Actually, I lied. Good afternoon. I'm not going to lie, right? It's just about 2 p.m. So we did have to sleep quite a lot after coming in late yesterday, but I think we are on track. So I'm just packing up the last of what we need for today and tomorrow. I actually was going to talk about why I've got this wetsuit, but I think it's going to be better to actually show you rather than tell you. We're going to drive about 500 kilometers north, and we're going to Karakol Lake. Now we're going to get right on the border with Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. As I mentioned to you guys before, I was supposed to come in through the Kyrgyzstan border at Kizilars. That would have been part of the experience because that's one of the widest land borders in the world. When you leave Kyrgyzstan on the north side, you actually have to drive almost 40 kilometers to get to the Tajikistan border. I've never seen a no man's land that's wide. Unfortunately, there were some kerfuffles at the border earlier in May, and that plan was scuppered because they closed the border.
But it's time for us to push on. The road ahead is a long one. This is the insanity of the Afghan-Tajik border. And no, I couldn't resist a quick dash to the water's edge and back.
There are all kinds of bridges like this throughout this part of the Pamirs. Right now we're in the Gunt Valley, and I wanted to come onto this bridge just to see how sturdy it is. Now it feels rather sturdy, and indeed we did see a vehicle coming along it a short while ago, but the barriers, I wouldn't want to lean on them. When you come to this part of the Pamirs, it's vistas like this. You've got very narrow gorges, rushes of water coming through, little bridges like this made probably by local community efforts, and we want to stay away from vehicles just like this. And really, this is what normal life is in this part of the Pamirs. Guys, I'm not being paid by Tajikistan to say this, but I really do wish that more people would visit. So this is where we are right now. We're in the Pamirs. Oh, and excitedly, we're getting onto the eastern section. So this is onto the high plateau. So we're going to encamp in the village of Karakol. There's a village of the same name of the lake of Karakol, and that's where we're going to spend the night. 4,200 meters is the altitude from which most professional skydives skydive in recreational skydiving. The highest airport in the world, which needs a specially constructed runway, and you'll find this airport just outside of La Paz, Bolivia. It's about 4,100 meters above sea level, and if you know anybody who's been to that airport, just ask them how they felt coming off the plane. This is literally almost half of the cruising altitude for long haul aeroplanes, and I mean, like, my mind is literally blown. Something else that's blown, our supply of petrol. We've run out. It's interesting to be able to show how you've got to source things you take for granted in other destinations, how you do that here. We parked in front of someone's house to buy petrol. Now the funny thing is that you can't really consider it a petrol station per se, because it's simply a dispensing pump that's attached to someone's house. So in order to buy the petrol, you've got to go up, knock on the door, make sure that both of you agree how much you're paying per litre, and then it's brought out in a can and siphoned into your car, ostensibly I suppose, because the dispensing pump doesn't work. Perhaps it's just there for an advert as to where you can find petrol. Alice, are we ready to go? How many litres of petrol did we buy? 20. How much did you sell it? 10 somoni, or let me guess, 12 somoni, of course. 20% markup, guys. 20% markup, because this is after all a remote settlement. And for that bizarre moment I mentioned earlier, this is it. A hare out of nowhere leaps into the road, and for the next 20 kilometers just keeps stalking our car. Now the crazy thing is, it refuses to move over to the side.
It's there. نبستك کی موندگیش ببره. Вообще نبست bırakıyoruz bu devam میگیره.
Is it from the future? Is it from the Matrix? It insists on staying in front of the car. When we try to cut around it, it cuts us off, almost as though it wants to self-destruct and leave us with the bill of guilt and self-loathing for a high-altitude roadkill. And it might seem funny looking at it, but I was a bit spooked. Yeah, Tajikistan's little Bugs Bunny from the shadows just kept on going.
I understand.
Wait, 40 kilometers, 40 miles, this is miles per hour.
Yeah.
Did you know that this thing can run 50? Oh my goodness, well, I'm learning so much today. You're gonna die, man!
I stopped it when I turning was going a little again.
Giriyorum ki de.
By the way, sorry for shouting, I didn't mean it. I thought we were going to hit it, and I hate it.
Oh no. trying to pass it, but keep coming to the kayak.
We had risen with the sun, but it wasn't enough. From well-laid plans to bad-laid roads, this 1,000-kilometre drive spread over 2 days had held enough adventure to last the year. And yet, our adventures were only just beginning. We had looked with longing to the life over the river. What do we know of conflict? What do we know of chaos? But, it seems, for now, we've made it. Through breakdowns and empty tanks and bunnies gone bananas that held us up for half an hour, we've made it. Or have we? Alright guys, it's just gone past 5 in the morning, and we're at Karakol. We're in the middle of this basin, just south of the Tajik-Kyrgyz border. Now the reason why I'm whispering is, as bizarre as this sounds, we've technically broken into a home and just seized a free room, and this is because the place we had booked, they'd fallen asleep, and who can blame them? We came about 5 hours late. So I'll set the scene for you. It's gone past 5 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd of September. It's still summer here, but the temperature outside is -1 degrees centigrade. I'm so cold, I'm out of breath. Altitude 4,000 meters above sea level, and so the three of us, having broken into this home, we're going to try to catch 40 wings. Good night.